Welcome back to this stage in history. Oh man, here we go. Derek Lewis, Sergey Spivak, UFC fight night. We have a card that was supposed to be in Korea. A Korean Zombie ends up having to pull out of that card, and they decide to move the card to Vegas. Unfortunately, as most of you know, if there is any people that don't really watch UFC on a regular basis but listen in every once in a while, what we like to call you is maybe a casual. If you want to stay up, the main event starts. What time is this, sir?
1 a.m. Eastern.
1 a.m. Eastern. So it's going to be a late night. We're probably going to about 2:30 in the morning. But is that when the first main fight goes?
Oh yeah, it's gonna be 4
Yeah.
a.m. by the time it
Yeah.
starts.
Yeah, maybe 3:34.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be a good one, man. Looking forward to it. But let's just jump right in. We got 12 fights on the card. I'll be really honest with you. We're here early in the week. We've been really taking strides and trying to expand the channel on YouTube, expand the channel on Instagram. But for the most part, guys, I'm almost feeling like this card is one of those things where you just bet on football today and just chill on next week for this. Don't even look at starting to get early lines in on the UFC card. Because really, man, there's just not too many spots that jump out. Did you see any spots that really jumped out to you?
There's definitely a few spots, a couple underdogs that I like on this one. But yeah, it's kind of it's a greasy card. It's the type of card where if you're basing your units off $100, maybe drop them down to 50 for this one, just because there's a lot of variables, a lot of unproven fighters, and a lot of fighters who've been fighting in markets that we don't necessarily have enough information on to judge where they're going to be at. So,
and first fight of the night, or first fight that we're going to break down, the main event. Derek Lewis, Sergey Spivak. We broke this fight down before. Obviously, this fight was supposed to happen about a month ago. Derek Lewis had to pull out partway through. Some people make the jokes about diarrhea, stomach issues, whatever they want to say. But let's just go into the fight. What is your take on this one? We got Derek Lewis 26-10-0 against Sergey Spivak 15-3-0. What are the odds currently sitting at for that one? What's
right
the best odds?
The best bet stamp odds are minus 230 on Spivak and the return on Derek Lewis at plus 195.
And I mean, we sort of wrote this down already, and there's no real mystery as to what this is going to be. We got Derek Lewis with the big bomb that if he touches you, he's going to put you to sleep. He hasn't really had a good stretch of time in the past little while. He's been getting, overwhelmed and taken out, taken down and smashed and even beaten up on the feet. So going up against a guy like Spivak with a very strong wrestling pedigree, Spivak, there's going to be a little bit of a difference between the two in the stand-up. I think Spivak's stand-up isn't very, it's okay, it's mediocre. But the wrestling is really where it's at. Top pressure's there. What's your take on this one? Derek Lewis, Sergey Spivak.
Yeah, man, I like Spivak a lot on the spot. I always have. I think Spivak's more on the growing part of his career where Lewis is on kind of, no offense, like the downfall. He's the type of guy that we all grew to love, but he's 2-3 in his last 5 fights. He hasn't looked very good in any of them. Even in the Tai Tuivasa fight, it was almost like his power had gone. Like he was clipping him with big shots and he couldn't put him away. And Tai just kind of hit him with an elbow and he crumbled. I think Spivak is the type of guy where we're seeing him start to put his fight IQ together, where in a lot of his fights he's been a little bit more tentative and shy and kind of takes minutes to get going. And I think he shoots within the first 20 seconds of this fight. Obviously, if it stays standing, then Lewis can take him out. We saw with Tom Aspinall, he was able to clip him, but I don't think that Derek Lewis is too live in this spot. He's always live for the KO, but I like Spivak, man. I think this fight gets extended a little bit, though. If you look at Spivak's fight, he generally doesn't get people out of there fairly early, unless it's Greg Hardy, who, had absolutely no takedown defense. So
what's the over currently sitting at right now?
Right now, the over 1.5 is sitting at minus 105. The over 2.5 is plus 200.
How do you like that? I think the 1.5, I think it's a nice play. What if Spivak takes him down and, doesn't get him out of there right away? Or I don't know. Actually, no, Derek Lewis might just crumble right away. Just trying to take a good spot on it.
I think the under 2.5 is minus 255. I think it's a good parlay piece. Because I think that covers you on both ends. It's either Lewis is going to clip him early, or even if it gets extended, Lewis's cardio isn't known for being good, despite what you see of him running and stuff like that nowadays. It's not something we've ever really seen in his career, so I don't think one training camp is necessarily going to change that. So
Yeah, I think a lot of people are looking for the narrative on that one. They see the picture of him where he's, a little bit skinnier and they're trying to. So here's the narratives, right? So if he's a little bit lighter, is he faster? Is he going to be better with his striking? Is his striking going to be cleaner? Okay, now we're thinking about that. Are you thinking maybe his power going to be less? Is he going to be more susceptible to a takedown? Who knows, right? You want to run the variables on that, and there's no point in even touching the fight. Look at it as a show me spot. Maybe he's a new lighter version, but really that piece of information is irrelevant until we see what it does. So I'm with you on that one. Let's move on to the next fight on the card. We have Daniel Jung 15-3-1 against Devin Clark 13-7-0. And what are the current best step on sitting at right now?
right now the current bet stop odds are at minus 215 for Daeun Jung with the return on Devin Clark at plus 185.
And I would imagine this is possibly where your dog train starts. So we have Daniel Jung, a guy who technically, decent striking. Really doesn't have anything that sort of stands out as far as the striking though, and really doesn't try to get guys out of there necessarily all the time. Now he did have a huge win streak until he ran into Justin Jacoby. He is sort of a tried, tested, and true. Was a consistent guy to bet on. Was a good ROI guy. But when he ran into Jacoby, that was just it, right? So you just don't know how that's going to be moving forward. Going against a guy like Devin Clark's wrestling is there. Devin Clark will be shooting takedowns multiple times, and Dan Jung's takedown defense, he's got to figure that out. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out with these two clash. But what's your take on this one? Dan Jung, Devin Clark, the dog, we've seen the guy with his lip, his teeth through his lip and everything else. He's been through hell and back. Does he win this one or not? What do you think?
Yeah, I like Danny Jung in this spot, man. I don't rate Devin Clark to be too high. As you said, his wrestling is good and stuff like that. But he's another one of these guys that kind of has to take a beating in order for him to come back. And I think this is kind of just like a tailor-made fight. I don't think his wrestling is going to play too much of a factor in it. And I think Daeun Jung is going to come out swinging. And, after that Justin Jacoby loss, I think he's going to come out here with something to prove. And I think he probably gets Devin Clark out of there. There is a world where Devin Clark kind of grinds this out through 15 minutes, but I think Daeun Jung's pretty safe on this one.
Does Devin Clark actually get those takedowns right away and early? But you're right. He doesn't seem to be in the fight until he's out of the fight. And that's a risky proposition in every fight. So maybe it will be a stay off for me. So we will move on to the next fight on the card. And I do have a play on this one. We have Marcin Tybura, 23-7-0 coming in against Blagoy Ivanov, 19-4-0. And what's the line currently sitting at right now?
It's currently sitting at a minus 150 for Tybura and a return on Blagoy at plus 130.
Okay, so Marcin Tybura obviously coming off, his upset victory over Romanov. And I think we all but called that as a potential scenario where Romanov goes for the takedown, blows his load, and runs into a Tybura who can just sort of steady the course and run steady Eddie and do what he did in that fight. And he wins a decision over Romanov and just edges him out. And Romanov is going to have to figure that out. You can't just go out and try to suplex the guy 16 times in the first minute and expect not to be tired. I don't care how much you do it in camp. I don't care how much of a seasoned wrestler you are or whether or not you want to be in the WWE. This is a fight. And if you're going to throw a guy around and not really do anything to him and finish him, he's going to probably come back. So anyways, Marcin Tybura is definitely someone I'm looking at in this fight. With Tybura, we're looking at Blagoy Ivanov, 19-4-0. This guy, he's got power in his hands, low volume. Tybura's going to be able to, I think, at least box his way in, get in on the hips and be able to take him down or get him on the cage and get him down, potentially even submit him, get him inside the distance. But I think Tybura is definitely going to be the side for me. What's your take on this one?
Yeah, I like Tybura a lot in the spot as well. I think that with Ivanov, he's one of these guys that he fights way too close, and he doesn't do anything overly well. He doesn't have the finishing capability. His wrestling isn't that great. He won his last fight, don't get me wrong, and he was a big Taylor point.
Lower on volume?
Lower on volume, spent about a third of the fight on his back. Don't quite know how he won that fight. I did have him, so I will take that bounce because as we know in the world of betting MMA, you get good ones and you get bad ones. So that was a good one my way. But I don't think he won that fight. And I think you're going to see a lot of the same in this one. Tybura's been in there with everybody. He's the type of guy that, he throws the volume that he needs to. He's good against he's good with clinch control up against the fence, and he's good at taking guys to the ground whenever he needs to, but he does just enough to win. But he's the type of guy you can bank on. He's not going to do what Romanov did and blow his load, as you said, trying to finish this fight. he's going to do what he has to do to win. And I think the volume and the pressure will just be on his side. And
And
fight
so what
goes
do
the
you think the line
distance.
was? Sorry, go on. Fight goes the distance, and what was the line sitting at?
Minus 200. I think it's a great parlay piece because I think at
Yeah,
the end
like
of the day, you can get greasy and pick a split decision. Half of Blagoy's fights have been split decisions. But, I think minus 200, man, it's these two dudes, they're all overweight. They don't throw a crazy amount of volume. We're
I'm
probably going
almost
to see
good with
15 minutes.
I'm almost good with calling like a 2-piece and a dog and calling it a day on this one. For this whole card, I think we might be able to get something like that. All right, next fight in the card, the one that I'm probably going to separate myself from because I'll have my homer hat on, right? So we got Kyle Nelson, 13-5-0, Canadian boy coming in against Doho Choi, 14-4-0. And, in this matchup, we have Doho Choi, who's now the big question right now, and this is a narrative that makes sense, is he's 3 years off. And how do you prepare for that? I don't know. I don't know if it's going to help him, if it's going to hinder him. So Kyle Nelson coming in has been training pretty hard. I've been seeing the training camps nonstop. He's been working mitts with Cruelan as well. So, and if we look at it stylistically when they match up, Choi maybe a little bit of a cleaner striker. The power is definitely there on both sides. So, I mean, when you're looking at the line, what's the line currently sitting at on this one?
It's currently sitting at wrong fight there. A minus 182 for Choi with the return on Nelson at a plus 148.
Yeah, so I mean, with both these guys, if they stand and bang, one of them's going to touch the chin. I mean, is it going to be Choi? I don't know where his striking is at right now. So I mean, it's definitely interesting to see where this one could go. I actually could even see Nelson trying to mix in some of the wrestling on this one, man. No matter what, I'm going to feel like I'm a little biased in this one because he likely will be on the podcast this week. These are the fights that I told you, unless we really feel a strong edge, I'm going to probably separate myself from and not really make a pick and not add this as a pick to the card unless we really see a strong edge where it's like definite or a strong on a submission or a prop or something along those lines. So I will stay off this one. I think that Kyle Nelson's going to be my pick. I will take the value on it. I will wait closer to weigh-ins to see if we get more value on the dog.
Yeah, we're definitely going to separate ourselves from this one, but I don't have a strong lean on Choi. I just think that he could probably do enough to win this fight. But like I was saying in our group chat, like I don't think anybody can be confident enough in this fight because we haven't seen a lot from Kyle Nelson that's really saying that he should win this fight. And Duho Choi hasn't fought in 3 years because of his military service. It was on a 3-fight losing streak. That being said, he was fighting absolute killers, but as for Nelson getting the takedown, he has a 10% takedown accuracy, which I just learned this minute, which is kind of funny. But yeah, like I think it's gonna be greasy, man. I think violence is the only way. There's no line out on it right now, but if you look at both these guys, Choi absorbs 6.38 strikes per minute, and Kyle Nelson absorbs 5.39. So these guys are both probably going to meet in the center of the cage and throw bombs, and somebody's going to go to sleep. So I'll be looking at like the under 2.5.
That likely is it, man. And when I'm saying him going shooting for takedowns, I've seen a lot of work with grappling and some wrestling as well too. But the reality of the fact is if they stand in the middle, it is going to be one of those things where it could end up being like pick 'em, and you could watch these guys fight like 20 times and see who drops how many times.
And Choi's been dropped hard, man. So
yeah. I mean, I don't know. It's so violent. Like Cruelan's mitt work is so like it's aggressive, man. It's hardcore Muay Thai. Like they get in there and you see they do some of the pro stuff over at BTC too, and it's like, fuck. Like they did some working. So, anyways, we'll leave that one there. Like I said, a little bit of a homer hat on for that one, anyways. And we will move down the card. We have Yusaku Kinoshita against Adam Fugit. So we have Kinoshita coming in at 6-1-0 and Fugit coming in at 8-3-0. If we look at the records of these guys, I mean, it's hard to really gauge levels at some of them. With some of these guys, they're on the what was it, Journey to the UFC? Is that the name of the? I didn't even end up watching that one. Like,
Road to the UFC.
I watched the tape, but I didn't end up watching like the full thing when it was live. So with this one, we have. Let me pull up my fucking notes now. Can't go off the top of my dome. I've been up for almost 24 hours, by the way, just letting you know.
Jesus.
Yeah, burning the candle. I told you. Yusaku, what I could see when I was watching tape, dynamic striker. It's actually pretty fun to watch, pretty solid, pretty technical too. He's got some power in his hands. Takedown defense is there as well. Takedown defense is actually his kryptonite. Was the one issue that he has, and that sort of is what Fugit does well, right? We have a strong wrestler with some decent hands as well too on the other side. So it's definitely interesting. I think if it stays on the feet, we have Yusaku who's going to have the advantage in this one. It's just going to be a striker versus wrestler situation, man. And for me, I don't have the line, and I actually haven't looked at any of the lines, which is beautiful. But Yusaku is going to be my pick on this one.
Yeah, I'm gonna lean Fugit on this one. I just from the tape study that I saw with Yusaku, like he was a very, as you said, dynamic striker, but some of it almost looked a little bit sloppy. Like he's very wild with his shots, comes out crazy. Most of his fights end in the first round. And Michael Morales is a guy that I rate very high, and somebody who's a problem in the division. And although Fugit got beat up in that fight, man, like that stoppage in the third, like he still survived 2.5 rounds, short notice, UFC debut, and looked to actually have decent in that fight. He was able to take punches, try and mix in his own grapplings. And although offensively didn't look good, whenever you take these short notice fights, it's kind of more how you come in defensively. Because if you get starched in the first minute and a half, you're like, okay, like this is kind of where your ceiling may be. But to be able to have that kind of defensive performance on, short notice proves a lot to me. So I'm willing to take a dog shot on him, man. I think as this fight gets extended, you could probably get a better line on it too, because he's probably going to get beat up a little bit in the first round. But he's the type of guy that if you watch his other tape, he's very good with his cardio. He kind of lures his opponents in and gets submissions late, the second or third round. So I think you probably get a late finish from Fugit or an early finish from his opponent. But I'll take the dog shot on Fugit.
Yeah, I think like I said, we'll break these ones down. I'll go on the other side of this one, but I think as far as picks for most of these ones, we're gonna stay away for official picks, anyways. For the podcast, we'll stay off of these ones. Next fight on the card, we have Anshul Jubli against Jeka Saragi. This is your nightmare. Some of the names, just nightmare city for you. Johnny's gonna have a field day with you again. So Ansel coming in at 6-0-0, Jeka coming in at 3-2-0, or 13-2-0. Really, what I could see from tape, from Anshul, very athletic guy, very well-rounded fighter. Like it's sort of simple stuff that I've seen so far, and he has some solid grappling as well too. Didn't get to see too much tape on him. I wanted to more lean on you with this one, but the guy does seem pretty athletic. And we'll see if the grappling does play out for him. Jeka coming in, this guy just sort of hunts for your chin. He just wants to land that big overhand right, land that bomb. That's sort of where he wants to play at. But really, I think for him, the best thing he could do, if he could actually utilize some of his wrestling, because he's able to sit down on his punches, because he's really able to utilize his wrestling pretty strong. If he can utilize his wrestling, mix it up, and then set up the punch, he's got to be a little bit more versatile, or more dynamic, with what he's doing. Because if he's not, people are just going to read it and eventually catch this guy. So, big power, it's there, but I'll lean Jeka in this one. Don't know what the odds are currently sitting at right now, but I would imagine maybe at 13-2-0 that he might be the favorite in this one. So.
Yeah, so this fight's a weird one. Just let's talk about line movement for a minute. Where Jeka opened up at a -175 favorite, with Jubilee being a +145. Right now, Jeka's sitting at a +100, with Jubilee being a -109. And to be honest, like I don't understand the line movement. Like I watched all these guys' fights because this is one kind of I gained a little bit more interest in because of the line movement whenever I went back and researched it. And I think that Jeka is definitely on the side here. Like you look at him whenever he's on his back, he defensively is very good at getting up. He's very good at scrambles to get on top. And his striking is far superior on the feet. We saw this last week too, right? With the fight where we had Marcos versus Oliveira, where Marcos opened up as the favorite and got steamed down to the underdog. We cashed that ticket fairly easily. Like I think sometimes the sharps just aren't on point on these ones. And hopefully we can capitalize on it again, getting a better line. Because if you look at his opponent, I need to look at these people's names because I will butcher them. Jubilee, he's very good offensively on the ground, but he doesn't do a lot to chase the finish. His submissions are coming against guys with very minimal records. Where with Jeka, like this dude comes in and throws caution, and whenever he lands, people go to sleep. So I like him a lot in the spot, man. I think he's able to get in there and get it done. And Yeah, I said I don't understand the line movement at all.
Okay, next fight on the card we have Za Yi 21-3-0 against Zheng Yang Li 9-1-0. So we're looking at tape on these guys. Really with Zheng Yang Li, pretty solid striking, pretty long for the division. Like the guy he utilizes his range pretty well, good footwork. But he likes to let his hands go. He likes to be able to actually pressure guys. It's going to be an interesting matchup, man. The way these guys actually break down, the way this actually break down, because he is the bigger guy, but might be susceptible to takedowns. Because on the other side of things, Zayi, he has strong takedowns. He's able to actually hide those takedowns, mix in with some kicks, and you utilize his striking pretty well to get in there and take you down. And he's always working, always going for submissions, always going for TKOs. He's always trying to finish, right? So I love opportunity. I love when guys take advantage of opportunity. I actually had an amazing podcast with Josh Hill and Champ Rafian Stotts, and Rafian was talking about, with Danny Sabatello, how he really just holds on and doesn't have enough of and I'm not saying this, Danny, this is what Rafian Stotts said. He doesn't have enough of a skill level yet to be able to actually be, confident enough in the position to let his hands go or to be able to actually be able to be offensive. So really, you're just holding on for dear life. This is not the case with this guy. So definitely an interesting matchup. This is a hard one, man, because if this stays on the feet, I think Lee potentially could edge this fight out or should edge this fight out. But man, I don't know. Yi, if this goes, it's a hard one, man. I'll go back and forth on this. I might pick later on. From what I saw, this is probably going to be one of the better fights of the night, I think. What's taking this?
Yeah, so on my notes, this is the one where I just wrote in big letters dog or pass. Because like the line's really wide. Lee right now is a minus 250 with Yi being a plus 210. And it's just like, to me, this fight's a pick 'em. Lee's very good standing and he's very good on the ground. And if he gets his opponent to the ground, like it's gonna be his world all day. But in retrospect, like watching their fights, they both have very similar styles and they're both very well-rounded fighters. So I don't know, man. This is the one where I think it's going to be either a dog or pass or just, a complete stay away.
And I think
a lot of people are assuming that Lee's going to get the KO in the spot. And I think violence may be just the way to look at it. Because I think regardless how this fight plays out, somebody's going to end up going to sleep. We got to look at this fight card as a contender series thing, right? Because these guys are essentially fighting for a contract. So you got to assume they're all going to go out there guns blazing.
And that's probably like the safest way to look at it, because with these guys, it's just you unless you're like regionally in around these areas, you really know these fighters, and you're just looking at tape and sort of taking a guess on it. You really don't know how this is going to really clash when these two get in there here together, because if the line is that wide, I don't actually believe that's a little crazy that line is that wide. I didn't think it would be that wide. I guess it's the stand up. It's got to be, but yeah, man, it does feel like Dana White contender series. So it's not a bad thing to just stay off. Watch a couple show me spots, see what these guys are like. You don't need to run a bankroll tonight. All right, next fight on the card, we have Rinya Nakamura 6-0-0 against Toshomi Kazana 10-2-0. What's the current line sitting at?
The current line right now is sitting. Just give me one sec. This is the Nakamura fight, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, minus 425 on Nakamura with the return on Tashoshimi at plus 340.
Yeah, so I mean, Kazama, I see why that would make sense. I mean, Nakamura, his high level wrestling, his pedigree is there, man. The guy's real scary, real clean. With the hands, I mean, once his hands come along and get even cleaner, this guy's going to be a huge fucking problem for a lot of people. Yeah, so with Kazama, the one thing I could see was he does have good scrambles. He's going to have to try to utilize that the best way he can. Maybe tire Nakamura out a little bit and try to land a big shot. He does have power in his hands. He's going to have to try to stay away from the wrestling, although he is a wrestler himself. If Nakamura gets onto the front foot first and pushes him on his back foot, he's going to have to scramble. If he can get actually Nakamura on his back foot and get off offensive, it's going to be a chess match, man. These guys are going to play in there. Obviously, Nakamura's going to be the guy with the higher level, but they have similar sets. So it's definitely interesting to see how this might match up at moments. Big step up for Kazama, but based at least on the tape that we saw. And yeah, I'm a Nakamura all day on this one. This is the only one I feel pretty strongly about it out of these, the Asian Data White Contender Series.
Yeah, I'm big on Nakamura in this spot too, man. Like, I think it's just, I don't think the line is necessarily correct, but once again, it's contender series type shit. The whenever favorite looks like they're gonna do good, they definitely get bloated. I think he'll be able to ground it and be able to find a submission or TKO. Right now, Nakamura inside the distance is -110. I think it's a great parlay piece or a great single bet, straight bet if you want to stay away from parlays on this.
If we don't
His
find much, I like that.
his opponent is very good. Don't get me wrong. He's definitely had more fights and definitely faced some more competition. But like the wrestling in Nakamura, just be able to hold him down and be able to do what he needs to do. He's an Olympic wrestler, man. He's gonna put in work in this fight, and I think this is the type of fighter where the UFC is gonna try and capitalize on, and trying to grow in the Asian market.
Okay, next fight on the card we have Hyung Sung Park against Sung Choi. Park coming in at 7-0-0, Choi coming in at 6-1-0. And what's the line on this one, Kurt?
Right now, the line on this one is minus. Oh, sorry. Minus 190 on Park and plus 160 on Sung Choi.
So, I mean, in watching with these guys, obviously, the tape was just really pretty simple, one-dimensional as hell as Park. The stand-up's not really there. It's non-existent. He's more just like a guy who's going to try to get this to the ground as quickly as possible. Slick with submissions, but he's got to get it there. Choi, more of a well-rounded fighter. He's going to have to utilize the cage to get off of at times when he's going to be pressing there. He's going to have to utilize his cage work defensively, scramble out, and even scramble off of his back if he needs to, if he gets there. Because if he gets a neck, like man, if he gets into any tight situations, he's probably gonna get his neck taken or something. So, but at the same time, if it stays on the feet, Park's gonna get lit up. So this one's just a show me spot. I mean, you could go either way. You could bet submission one way, and I don't know. Choi likely, I mean, with the more avenues, I guess it could be a pick. But Park is slick with those subs. So what's your take on this one?
Yeah, I like Park a lot in this moment. I think he's going to be able to get his opponent down and just be able. I think it's going to be like a John Fitch-esque performance, though. I don't really see him getting a finish in the spot. I think he's just going to kind of grind him out. His opponent Choi is fairly good, and they'll probably be able to withstand a lot of the wrestling that comes his way. But at the end of the day, I think that Park's just going to be able to ground him and just make this kind of a grindy style of fight where Choi kind of bounces up, does do some work on the feet, but at the end of the day, I think he's probably just going to get destroyed in the spot. So
next fight of the card, Ji Young Kim, 9-6-2, Mandy Bum, 7-2-0. So this is a dangerous potential trap spot for the world. Money coming in on Jung Young Kim, 9-6-2. She is on a 4-fight losing streak. But I would argue that she got robbed in one of her fights. Not robbed, whatever. We won't use the word robbed so quickly, but I think she won one of those fights. And the other one, she miraculously fights in close fights and tends to lose. Or maybe win. And the fact that the line is so wide when you have someone like this who fights in close fights, and then you have many bum coming in. I don't know, man. Both girls have not had a good stint in the UFC. This is a trap spot if you're going to put money on Kim. And then if you throw bank at the dog, you're also potentially screwing yourself. I thought about that even. Like, why not? Why not just look at Mandy? No, don't look at Mandy. Mandy could come in with a grappling heavy game plan. She could come in and mix it up a little bit because she stays in a boxing situation. She's probably going to get outpointed on the feet and have Kim run her at distance. But if she mixes it up with some grappling, she could make it greasy. Same time, I just think stay off it. Don't think you're sharp, because if you tell me you know how this is going to finish, you're fucking lying. And I don't know, man. I think I'll probably stay off this one. I get the value on bomb, but don't touch it. Kim likely edges her out, but not at that value. What's your take on this one?
Yeah, I definitely agree that isn't one you want to touch. Kim has faced the higher level competition. Originally, whenever I looked at this, I'm like, women's MMA plus 250, shoot for the dog. I don't really see it either. I think they're just trying to do Kim a favor, and she had a couple of hard fights against a lot higher competition than Mandy Baum, and I think they're just trying to give her a win. The only look I like on this fight, and I will play it, is Kim to win inside the distance. Most of her fights come inside the distance when she actually wins. It's plus 350, and this fight card has been catered to the Asian market. and I think she's going to come in here and try and show it. And I just don't think Mandy Baum is good. So at the end of the day, I think Kim could probably do work. She comes in, throws wild shots, shoots takedowns. She has submission wins, you know. And I said most of her wins actually do end inside the distance. So I'll take a plus 350 shot, but I wouldn't suggest putting too much investment into this one.
Yeah, I mean, although it probably is sharp and it definitely could happen, and you probably found some in there, it just still feels greasy as fuck. As
Oh, it's as greasy as it gets, man.
Holy
Anybody
fuck.
with a brain should bet this fucking fight.
Yeah, no, man. I'm a back off it. Uh, it just if it was anybody else that was in the dog spot, I'm jumping on it because it's just the lines misaligned no matter what because she fights in close fights. But I don't know. It's sketchy. Next fight on the card, and what you'll notice is these are some fights that you might see on a main card for a fight night, but they're putting them up a little bit earlier in the night for those that maybe want to go to bed a little bit earlier or not catch the whole card. So I mean, you're at least getting some exposure. It's a high exposure point of the night basically for these guys. So we have Jung Young Park 15-5-0 coming in against Dennis Tululin 11-6-0. Jung Young Park, I mean, the guy's striking, it's there. He's got decent striking. His boxing is, I don't know, man. It's not to write home about, right? So he hides behind his jab pretty well. He's got some good wrestling. If he gets top pressure, it's going to be a problem for Dennis Tululin. Dennis Tululin, this is really a striker versus a grappler situation. We do know that, or striker versus wrestler situation. But if it stays on the feet, man, I like Tululin. And I think we've sort of backed him, or we've talked about the idea of he's scrappy. His last fight, he stayed in the fight. Like he looks like he's gonna gasp, but then he ends up still landing big shots. I think he's a guy that his power will carry on. I know he finished that fight in the second round, but he didn't look like he looks almost like sloppy at points, gassy at points, because he just throws and he pressures. But man, he lands, and I think that Park losing the way he did in what was it? It was his last fight that he lost.
No, the one before. Last fight he beat Joseph Holmes.
Oh no, it was 3 fights ago against Rodriguez where he lost it like via KO. I'm just trying to look at where the KO was, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's very interesting. I'm probably going to be on the Tulin side of this one just because I could see a narrative where Park maybe takes him down a couple of times or puts him up against the cage, but he just has the bigger moments and lands the bigger shots. And if he doesn't get him out of there, which he typically does in all of his fights, he's just going to have the bigger moments and win a decision based on what we've been seeing. Damage. You don't win hugging matches, fucking Rafi and Stats would say. So yeah, man, I'm with you on the Tulin train. I was thinking about even looking at maybe Park by decision, Tululin by KO. Not a bad way to look at it, to be honest. But you take it away.
Yeah, as you said, man, I'm high on the Tululin. He was the first dog I saw whenever I looked at this card and one I'm heavily confident in. I honestly don't think Park won his last fight either against Eric Anders. Like, that was a greasy fight at the end of the day, but I thought Eric Anders did more than enough to win that one. So I don't rate Park's fight IQ very high, and against a guy like Tululin, who's just going to come out and throw bombs, you kind of need to have that high fight IQ. Like, he needs to ground this fight, because if not, volume's going to be on the Tululin side all day. And even in the Jamie Pickett fight, man, like, people can talk all the shit they want about Jamie Pickett, and I, for one, will talk shit about Jamie Pickett, but he was massive compared to Tululin.
Until you meet him face to face, and then you motherfucking won't.
Well, no, then we're best friends, but yeah, man, like Jamie Pickett was shooting for those takedowns and he couldn't get them. And even whenever he was trying to pressure Tululin up against the fence, Tululin was still throwing stuff back. So I think just based on volume, Tululin's the side, and I think he either gets a late TKO or rides this one out to a decision.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. I think we'll make that a play. I'm down. I mean, we don't have too many plays on the card. When we go back, we'll see what we can find. But next one, next fight on the card, I would have liked to have had a play on this one. This line I did know about because this line is absolutely astronomical, just stupid. Tatsuro, I'm full of dad jokes and puns today, by the way. Tatsuro Taira 12-0-0 against Jesus Aguilar 8-1-0, minus 1,300 in some books. Yeah. Okay, so Tatsuro Taira, we know what he was going to do. We know that his stand-up is decent. He's going to utilize that to try to get that to the cage or get that to the ground immediately. He wants to get you grounded. He wants to get dominance, and he wants to eventually get on your back, and he wants to take your neck, or he wants to take your arm as he's working to your back. whatever which way he can. And that's it. He's relentless with trying to shoot for takedowns. But one thing I didn't notice, and you can see it, he's a little bit, his entries can get sloppy. And, if you do that multiple times in a fight, you're going to gas. It's, I'm not saying this is a spot. I'm just saying at minus 1,300 with a guy that potentially could shoot a bunch of takedowns, gas, and get caught by a random guy that we don't know about with power. I'm not playing that game on the first fight of the night.
So you're telling me there's a chance?
Right? Not even close. Not a chance. I'm not digging for anything on this one. But Sword Tyra is the guy who's going to ground it and try to sub it. Decent hands, 12-0-0. But now we got Jesus Aguilar who's coming in. This guy's got some decent stand-up. He's got some power in his hands. Like he's a guy that could put you out. But at the same time, he's also got, out of his 6, what was it right now? I got the numbers here. Out of his 8 wins, he's got 6 stops. Out of his 6 stops, he's got 4 guillotines. And they're nice guillotine chokes. Like he's a good grappler. So I don't know, man. I just, if you want to actually try to put minus 1,100 into your parlays and have it get blown up on the first fight of the night, I've done this before. I've said this and then it's happened. I don't know, man. Just stay away from it. Don't touch it. Don't try to do anything with it. Even the dog itself, I don't know if it's a play because I think Tyra likely wins this one. But I wouldn't hate the DGen to put money on the dog on this one because the line's just astronomical. Like if you went submission for the dog, I wouldn't hate you for sprinkling that just because he's won his guillotines. Even though Tyra, yes, I know is a good grappler.
Yeah, well, I think you have to go with Tyra, obviously, with the line. You'd be crazy to come out here and just pick against it. But I think the best way to play this fight, and I know a lot of people will disagree with me on this, is Tyra by decision or fight goes to decision at plus 110. There's Tyra by submission is going to be like minus 250. And the more I watch this fights back, like he's beating really low level guys whenever he's going in and getting these early stoppages. He's facing a guy with a great jiu-jitsu background, a good wrestling pedigree, and actually decent striking. It's a flyweight fight, so it's not like they're the bigger echelon. I know flyweight unders have been hitting like crazy over the last year, but I think at the end of the day, I think this fight's going to get extended. We did see some cardio issues in Tyra's last fight, although he did get CJ out of there. Definitely faced some adversity in that fight, though, more than a lot of people expected him to. And I think in this fight, it'll probably be the same. He also has the fear of the grappling coming from his opponent. So I feel like he's going to be a little bit more cautious in this one. He's not going to come in and shoot sloppy double legs like he did in his last fight because, no offense to CJ Vergara, the submission or the threat of a submission wasn't there. So he can dive in deep on those legs. He's not worried about it. If he goes in for a sloppy shot, as you said, like his neck's going to get caught. So I think he has to be cautious.
You are 100%. You don't want to ever go against a line like minus 1,100 and say you want to bet on the other side of it. But, well, unless you really see value in the dog. But the reality is, man, like the sprinkle on the sub is one thing if you want to be a DGen, but this likely finishes decision. I like what you're thinking on that. But, man, I think it's so risky. Like I can see that play out and you'd be like, what the fuck? Misses 3 shots and then gets caught with a kick. Because every guy can throw a kick there at that level. A kick is a kick, right?
Yeah.
Like, so we can talk about breaking down fighters and see who's better and what we want to rate them at. But I mean, minus 1,100 can end real quick, Leon Edwards, baby. Leon motherfucking Edwards. What was he going to that final round? Minus like fucking, or plus 40,000 over that last round?
Yeah.
No. But yeah, okay. So I think we found at least a couple spots here. Let's go back and just cycle through them quickly. Okay, so for podcast plays, we break this down on the Derek Lewis fights. Sergey Spivak, we don't really have a take on that one. You maybe the under. You said the under was what, 2.5 is?
Yeah, minus 220.
So let's hold that minus 220 to maybe parlay piece it. But man, that main event's been killing me. That main event has been killing me on over
on unders. Yeah.
So you know what? Let's stay away from it. They've been horrible. Over unders on main events. Like I know this one's almost a given. It should be, but like. Maybe we'll add it to a parlay. We'll see. Devin Clark, Denon Jung, stay off.
Yeah, for sure.
Marcin Tybura, do you think if we get a finish, because if we can look for a double on this, do you think he could knock him out or submit him? Probably submit him.
Probably submit him, but I think this fight goes to decision.
So to be safe, okay, so Tybura by decision or Tybura by submission is double down, submission and decision. Depending on what line it's sitting at, if you can find it. Okay, so I'll find that line and we'll put that out. Doho Choi against Kyle Nelson. I mean, I think if these two fights 20 times, it could split down the middle. Two strikers. One you could say can edge the other out with a little bit cleaner striking, but the reality, the other one I would argue is more power. So either way, we're going to stay off this one. I think Canadians involved. Let's stay away unless we got a strong edge on it. Fugit and Kinoshita.
I like Fugit.
Like Fugit in that one, but we'll stay off as far as the play because I think we're on either side of that one.
Yeah.
The only one I think we're going to take away from that series is Nakamura, correct?
Yep. And Jekka. I think we should play Jekka.
Okay, so what was the one that you had said that was the definite play?
Jekka bike or Jekka KO, but yeah, no. Nakamura is the one. Nakamura inside the distance -110.
Nakamura inside the distance 110. And Dennis Tululin, dog money. What's his number sitting at right now?
+175.
+175. And yeah, I think that's the spots, man. If we look at Jekka, we may add in. So Jekka KO is sitting at what right now?
+300.
Okay, and that might be a spot that we may add on in, depending on what we have by the end of it all. All right, brother. So we got through it. It was a little rough. I really appreciate all of you that listen on a regular basis. I've been putting in a lot of extra time to try to increase everything for us as far as following, subscriptions, everything else, because that's going to only eventually help us bring better content out there. Because to be honest, if we can attract advertisements, we can get people coming in, if we can get things going, we partner with BetStamp. BetStamp's actually been absolutely amazing to us already so far. But if we can draw in more advertisers, then we can put more work into this and get better at what we're doing. BetStamp right now, currently utilizing the app, has been leaps and bounds way better. Like the one thing you got to look at, and this happens so regularly. How many times do you go to put together a parlay and you find two lines you love? And you put them together and you're like, oh, I want a little bit more value in that. You add one more piece, and on that piece, the line's not very good. The line's a little chalky, and then that chalk line ends up screwing you. Well, I'd rather you be searching for value every time you possibly can. You need to be getting better value on lines all the time. That extra piece is going to screw you. Don't get the extra piece, line shop. Get better value out of your piece, out of your plays, instead of adding more to it. It's one thing that I've noticed has made a huge difference. But with that, I think that we have found what we need to. We've line shopped this week. We got the best lines that we could. It's a hard card to play on. We got our spots. So for Nick Eagle-Eye, I'm Callum McGregor. We like to chop it up and break down as much as we possibly can and dig into tape as quickly as we can. We're trying to get them out as early as possible in the week. And if you've been with us for the past year and a half and are still listening and don't like us, I don't know what's wrong, man. What do you think, Rafian?
I'm about to beat the shit at this kid, bro. I'm Rafian Stotts, Bellator champion, and tune into the Don't Tap podcast.